The idea for Slow Dance With Me, oddly enough, actually came from a dream that I had. I remember waking up and I wrote down everything that I had dreamt. I experienced this real sense of longing, this feeling that I thought would be great to capture in some sort of a short film.
When I read the script for Slow Dance With Me, I felt it and I knew that it would make a special film. It took me on this really beautiful but tragic journey.
I think the question for us as filmmakers became, well, how do we get the audience to experience that emotion in such a short amount of time in a film that has no dialogue whatsoever?
And that's really where the importance of color stood out to us. We needed to establish the film with a very warm and calm and happy color palette. But when we move inside the house and Millie's received the telegram and she's read it there, from that point forward I wanted it to feel very cold and dark and distant, almost even isolated at points.
I feel every frame should have contrast in it to a certain degree in order to add a little more energy to a frame. And so finding places to put spots of lights. Walter was very helpful in that every light I was able to dim or brighten up, and therefore we're able to change our lamps, the coloration of them, because we had a certain color palette we're going for, warm versus cool, and having the flexibility to pull that off required working in conjunction with Walter and what he was doing with the set.
Color was a huge part of this emotive storytelling, but on a practical level, we needed to find a physical setting that we could shoot in, some sort of house that looked like it belonged to the 1940s era. We came across this house and I saw it and I thought, this is it, this is the one.
The house was built in the early 1900s, but it's been lived in, it's been renovated several times. It had all of these modern elements on the exterior and interior that we needed to get rid of. So we put a lot into it. I mean, it was hanging wallpaper, it was painting parts of the house, it was adding awnings to the exteriors, replacing the roof, visual effects shots. There was a lot of work that we put into it.
When I saw the front of the house and I saw the gravel strip going up to the old car, and then the awning that was on there, the cloth awning, that changed everything.
Well, there was so much attention to detail within the house, outside the house, with all the costumes, so it made our job as actors really easy to get into character. Building the character is one of the best parts about playing a character to me, and a lot of times it is between the lines stuff that's not exactly on the page, especially when you're not saying anything, you don't have any words in the film. A lot of it is clues in the script to how your character is dressed, what is the initial setting where your character is. That tells you a lot. So we filmed this in January, late January. I was in this sweet little summer dress and barefoot for the film because Millie's in her home, just relaxing and going about her day. Why would she be wearing shoes? So it was pretty cold that day. I don't really remember the temperature, but I was in my bare feet. There were moments where I had to put on men's socks, borrowed some socks, put on my flats, and covered myself with little blankets from around the house. And then they're like, okay, set up for the shot. I'm like, okay. So I'm taking off my shoes.
It was pretty cold.
Again, another just testament to, be in that moment as an actor. You can't be thinking about, as Emily, I am so cold right now and I can't feel my feet. Honestly, to me, a nice relief when I'm a character and there's something else going on in my head or in my life, I'm able to just block it out. So in those moments where we were actually filming, I was the most warm. But yes, it was very cold that day.
The dance was kind of fun because, well, it was fun. We get to work with Mary and she was fantastic.
I was asked to come on set as a sort of dance consultant / choreographer. So I taught them the foxtrot because that is a common dance style done in the period of the film. A lot of common dance nowadays is all about competition. Even in social dancing, it's like, let's have a dance off. And there's kind of this loss of social dance as a form of communication and a form of expressing that you like someone or, a form of wooing someone.
It's a lot harder than you think it is. It looks very simple, but it's so easy to complicate if you don't let go. And especially when you're in cloggy military shoes, you're like, oh, it's another element of, and when she's barefoot,
Right.
it's another element on top of it. So
There were many a stubbed toes.
yeah.
Ow! We need a retake.
Many clown steps with me.
In dance, just your hand can be a character. Just your feet can be a character. If there's a close-up on your feet, you can't just do the steps. Your feet need to be next to each other, not toe-to-toe. They need to be, moving a certain way because that's still part of your character. You're still showing your love even though it's just your feet, and that's kind of what dance is. You could not show your face at all and still be telling a story by how you move a certain part of your body.
A film isn't too challenging if you've planned it well. If you've tried to anticipate everything you could, and it didn't rain on us, so so that wasn't something we had to wrestle with. So everything showed up on time. Nothing broke on set, except for the record player.
Walter was able to rebuild this analog motor that made the record player work. He actually had it where you could crank it and it would play music. This machine that's over 100 years old, because this thing was from what year?
It was from the early 1910s, and it was estimated, I think they said, between 1910 and 1914. And yeah, I had spent a lot of time working on it, and it really was paying off, and it was looking beautiful, and it was working.
The night before the shoot, we were doing a little bit of testing and getting some stuff ready for the next day.
And we had done it several times, but the night before we were pretty excited about the day that was going to follow, and I might have got a little bit too excited, and I just I cranked it, and then I cranked it, and I'm going all the way over, and pop! and I immediately, my heart immediately sank to the floor, and I knew what had happened. And the record player at that point was completely broken.
The brilliant solution of the crew was, okay, well, it's powered from underneath, and if we can get a power drill, underneath the record player, we can click on the power drill and it'll spin the record. So they're like, oh great, okay, so do we just shove somebody in the record player? Well, yeah, we're going to. So we have one of our tallest crew members inside the record player, upside down. He's got a drill, he's drilling. There's also somebody else, I think there were two people helping, like other person shoved in there. And I have to stand over them. I'm standing over the record player, like reaching like this.
Emily was doing a fantastic job, just sort of walking around him and making
he had his eyes covered, of course.
You're awkwardly reaching, and there's a guy underneath you. You're wearing a skirt. You're like, please don't look up. And it's just funny, the world that no one sees. So
we nailed it, and it wound up being one of the more beautiful shots in the film.
In the film, it looks normal. All you can see are my arms, and everything looks perfectly placed. It's just the power of film.
Filmmaking can be very stressful because you have a very finite window of time, and every film is brand new. You've never done it before, and you don't really know if you can pull it off. And because of that, it can be kind of a pressure cooker at times because you also have personalities to contend with. But none of those issues really came up. It was a very relaxed, easygoing set.
Everyone was so pleasant with each other. We were all just happy to be there. No one was like, when is this going to be over? I want to get home.
I'm really pleased with the final product of the film.
I think we really made something special at Slow Dance With Me, and I hope audiences feel the same way. One of the reasons I wanted to make the film was because my grandfather served in World War II. And I never had the pleasure of meeting him or thanking him for his service because he passed away before I was born. But I hope that in some way this film will serve as a tribute to him and a tribute to all of those who served or lost loved ones in World War II.